So, Letitia, maybe you can give us a little bit more about what you do and what your engagements.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Everybody can hear me, yeah? Should I raise it a little bit? Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, good morning everyone. As Papa said, my name is Letitia Brown. I actually work for Ghana Angel Investor Network. However, prior to that, I've been involved in several different ventures, some of my own, some of which I've been employed by other organizations. And primarily, I've been working in the area of human resources and recruitment, supporting youth into sustainable employment and entrepreneurship was one of my last roles in the UK before I moved here. And I kind of had this feeling that when I get to Ghana, I find my feet. I wanted to be able to replicate, or should I say maybe share some of the experiences that I've had with Ghanaian youth, because I think that unemployment rates are just as high here as they are in any other part of the world for graduates. And I thought that I had something that I could add some value and try to remedy some of these challenges that we are having, which is where the program called Spark came about really. And Spark is a process. It's a personal development process, but rather than just focusing on how to develop a good CV and a cover letter and how to present yourself in an interview, I guess I just wanted to take it to another level. So it's a process of which you get all of those three things, but going through a program of self-discovery really, and finding purpose in what you want to do from a very, very early stage in your career. So in a nutshell, that is the Spark program, and I hope that I'll be able to share a little bit more about that with you later on this morning.
And Abigail, and why don't you elaborate a little bit on what you do?
So I like to say that I'm a passionate coach and advisor. I'm currently working with Ashesi University College. I've been in Ashesi for 3 years now, and I'm in their career services department. What we basically do is career advising, career coaching. And like Papa said, we do help our students to find jobs, but not just that. We look at helping them to identify what kind of careers they will thrive in, and not just any career because they have to find work, but trying to match their skills, their personalities to careers that will be successful in. And then also preparing them towards those careers. So what does it take to become the ideal candidate that the employer is looking for? You're looking for somebody who has the right soft skills, the right kind of leadership experiences, how you present yourself to the employer. Do you have a good CV? Do you have great interviewing skills, networking skills, business etiquette? How are you comporting yourself in the business environment? How do you dress professionally? So those kind of skills we look at helping our students to discover and then be able to become marketable once they're done with university. And then obviously, once you have all those skills the employer is looking for, you go out there and you don't struggle to get a job and get a fulfilling career. And it doesn't take long for you to be successful in a career. So that's literally what we do in Ashesi University. Prior to my work in Ashesi University, I was into recruitment. I did that for some time, and then I decided to specialize in career counseling. So,
now, in both your lines of work, what are some of the biggest issues, or should I say blunders, that you see when it comes to people looking for jobs?
Okay, I'll target this question towards young people looking for jobs. I think that, like Abigail pointed out, when you finish university, you're eager to work. You want to start earning some money, gaining some independence. We've been there before, so we understand. I felt exactly the same way. In actual fact, I wanted to work before I went to university, and that's actually what I did. I wasn't interested in just finishing school, jumping straight into a course that I didn't really understand where it was going to take me. So I kind of flip things around. But I think this eagerness kind of forces us to move into the career, world of work blindly, not really thinking about what you have to offer the world of work and what the world of work has to offer you, but rather just thinking about, okay, I want a job. So therefore, when you're interviewing a young person, is these kind of blanket answers. Oh, why do you think that you want to work here, for example? Why do you feel like you're going to fit into my team? Or I'm extremely hardworking and, I'm capable of adjusting to any situation. What does that even mean? Do you know what I mean? You kind of get those very surface level responses, and that's the most challenging thing I find, because what I like to do is really engage with people and understand how, the connection that I'm able to make with somebody, especially if you're coming to work with me, is going to benefit us in trying to achieve the overall, objective. So I think that young people don't really think enough about what it is that they want to do and how they're going to achieve what it is that they want to achieve, but they're rather just too eager and trying to be a pleaser to all possible employers. And I see that as a challenge. Some may not, but I think that's really a fundamental challenge. And maybe I don't want to say too much now, but I think as we go on, we'll discover why.
What about you?
I'll probably like to timeline into what she just said. So we have a lot of the youth who go out and don't do what we call a targeted job search. They just want a job, so they keep going out there, whatever they find will take. That is why it's difficult for them to actually come out with what skills they have for the job or to excel on the job when you're asking them to an interview. The first step of the career development process is self-discovery. You have to do that introspection to identify what kind of person am I, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what kind of personality do I have, what are my values. When you are able to understand these things, then it's easy for you to match that with a career that, fits into all those things that you discovered about yourself. So you're not just looking for a job because you want money or you want to just get by, but you're looking for a job that you thrive in, that you can be successful at. So then when you get to the employer at the interview and the employer is asking you, why do you think you're the best person for the job? You know your skills. You've seen the job advertisement. You know what they're advertising for. You know what skills you have. So you can easily make that match with the employer right there that I have these skills, that is why I say I think I'm the best person for the job. And you're not just saying I have these skills, but you're demonstrating or you're telling them instances where you have actually done things to show that you have those skills. So then the employer is convinced. Okay, so I'll say that's one key challenge. And another one is the youth, once again, don't take too much time to prepare themselves for the job search. I need a job, so I'm just going out there and going to look for a job. Do you have a CV? What does your CV look like? Are you displaying the kind of competencies that the employer is looking for, or your CV is a generic CV that you can drop to anybody? If I'm picking your CV as an employer, I want to see the kind of skills that I'm looking for, or I'm advertising for the role. So make sure your CV is targeted to that. Have you gone through some interview skills training? What do you say at the interview? What kind of questions do you ask? How do you respond to some of the questions? All these things is what makes you the kind of candidate that the employer is looking for. You have people who've been searching for jobs for years and can't get a job. But these are some of the things you need to pay attention to. How do you even dress for an interview? How do you comport yourself in the professional environment? And also there are other platforms for the job search. It's not just looking in a newspaper for a job advertisement and applying. Networking opportunities. Try and get to know people who are in the industry that you're looking at entering into. You want to name them. Join some of these professional groups or associations. Join in the conversations so that it's easier to then link up with people in the industry. And you can start by asking for, let's say, an informational interview where you're not asking for a job, you're just asking for more information about the industry. And then that way you get more people in your network and you can easily reach out to them and say, hey, I'm looking for a job in this kind of industry, in this kind of organization, can you help me? They may not have it, but then they can also reach out to other people in their network, and eventually you find that you're getting a headway in your job search. So I think the youth have to be creative and think outside the box, not do what just anybody is doing, but think of how can I do a more targeted job search, to help me to get that.
This is actually interesting, but one thing I noticed, and you talking about this, man, objectives, like, when a lot of people write CVs here, they have a section where they say, objective, and you find all sorts of things. Sometimes it's about 6 sentences long, it's all over the place. How does a person target or tailor this area when you feel like you need to have an objective with a CV?
I think it's something maybe we talked about already, but just to elaborate further. It's really about doing the necessary research. It's okay to keep changing your CV every single time you're applying for a job. It doesn't make you a fraud or a liar. My CV probably makes me sound far more capable and competent than I am, but that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to get you through the door. We don't elaborate with false information as in I have a PhD in career coaching or whatever. No, I'm sitting here telling you that I like this because I've been here and I've been through it, through my, X amount of years of work experience. So we don't have to make up those kind of lies, but we can tailor our CVs to the employer and what it is that they are, looking for. What do you think the organization needs? And I think you can gather that information by some of the suggestions that Abigail made with regards to, informational interviews, etc. Just dig a little bit further, speaking with people that you know work within the organization, or maybe speaking to somebody that started the organization not that long before you. A junior member of staff is probably going to be far more willing to give you their time than the CEO. So don't necessarily wait for the CEO to open his door.
Yes, experience in this industry or this particular area. And another key part of the personal profile that we need to put there is how all of these competencies and skills you mentioned can add value to the employer. So most people talk about, I have this, I have that, I want this, I want a career in this, I want a job in this area. But as an employer reading that, it doesn't add to your, it doesn't add to what you're looking for. You want to know how this person is coming to your company to add value. So put it right there. I have this skill, I have this competency, and I intend to use this way to help the company. Okay? And like Natisha said, make it specific, make it targeted. Don't be generic. Don't use generic terms like I am a people person, I'm a people-oriented person, I have a very good eye for detail. Those things are very generic, but be more specific about the competency. You always make sure you're telling the employer how you're going to add value to their company.
Yeah, and because I think, sorry, but when somebody says like, okay, I have very good eye for detail, then you ask them, okay, so how does this help me? And then it's like, just a blank stare, because you haven't really thought about it. You haven't thought about how that specific quality or skill or talent that you have actually relates to the employer and what they're looking for.
Interesting. One thing that I also think I want to add. Before that, let me ask you this question. With Letitia and Abigail, how many CVs does an average HR person look at any given period for the companies you work with?
You receive hundreds a week.
Hundreds a week.
Yeah.
So,
like random CVs just coming through, and then if you actually have a vacancy out there, it can be multiplied by.
so just to bring this closer home, why don't you give me a real case scenario of how you see these?
For me, I look for companies first. I look at the companies that you've worked for before. If I'm
take each
reading
page
for,
and go through it.
no, I literally just do a scan. I don't read what you did at that particular company. But I think, just giving you an overview, then we'll look at maybe more of a graduate type of position. So maybe if you're looking for a couple of years, it's not everybody can be just a fresh grad. If you're a couple of years in work, and I'm recruiting for a particular role. To be specific, maybe somebody to work in our marketing department. Okay, I would first look at the companies to see where you've worked before. If there's any brands or any names that pop out in my mind, it gets an automatic interest with me. And then I will look to see what you did there. Okay, so for me, that's how I generally tend to screen as a recruiter. If I'm looking at it more from an internal perspective, if I'm recruiting somebody to come and work with me, I'll probably look at the person's personal profile first, because I want to engage more with that person.
So it depends on the...
Most definitely.
Does formatting play in the role?
Later. I can forgive somebody's bad spelling and stuff if I think that they have something that I want.
What about you?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'll say, you said, do you go page by page? First of all, many page CVs doesn't add anything to you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If you're a young graduate, I would say keep your CV to a page.
One page, okay.
One page. Recruiters don't have the time to go through how because they have stacks and stacks of CVs to go through. Keep your CVs under a page. And I think, well, for me, formatting is key. Okay, so in as much as I want the content of what's on your CV, I also want to make sure, I want to see that, because I'm thinking so many CVs, I don't want to struggle to read something. Versus if you use very tiny font sizes, I can't read it. I'm going through so many CVs. I'll just quickly put your CV aside, okay? One thing that I can't stand is a CV with grammatical errors. You write in your CV that I have applied for detail, I go through your CV, and then there are grammatical errors all over that. That's also a no-no. Like she said, based on the role that we're recruiting for, if it's for a young graduate, okay, someone like that doesn't have too much work experience. Maybe they've done internships here and there. Usually, I would go to the education first of all to see how qualified you are. And then I would look at, when I come to your work experiences, I'll look more, first of all, at the kind of at what you've done, because it's not everybody who's going to get an opportunity to work in big organizations, okay? But what did you do there? How did you add value to that company? And on the work experiences, one thing I would look out for is accomplishment statements. So you say, I did this job, I did this, but what proves to me that you were actually successful at it? Hard accomplishment statements, for instance, I went on the company's website and increased website traffic by 20%, for instance. Okay, so things like that, statements like that tell me that you did the work and you were successful at it. Then I would also look at what were your experiences outside the classroom, because I'm not looking for a student necessarily or a young graduate necessarily with a CGP of 4.0, but you were a good student, great, but what else did you do with your time when you were in school? What kind of co-curricular activities did you engage in? What kind of leadership experiences do you have? Because I'm trying to project what kind of employee you will be by taking one. So all these things tell a story about who you are and what you can do. So I'll say these are the things. I look at education and career experience, I look at your co-curricular activities. And some of leadership experience ranks very high for young graduates. You've had some great leadership experiences. You've done some professional development on your own. So if you are, let's say, a technology student, what kind of professional development have you tried to engage in outside of the classroom? Have you, found some courses to do on the side, whether online or, to develop yourself? So I see that you're not somebody who just sits down and gets complacent after a while, but you're always looking at growing. So these kind of things, are some of the things that I look out for in the CV.
Any questions so far? Does somebody want to recap what we said? Okay, let's expand a little bit more on what next. Now, for those of you who saw me yesterday evening, I had wrapped up 2 gifts, and I think nobody wants those 2 gifts, because I told them that I'll find ways to determine who was going to take those 2 gifts, and obviously nobody got it. I was trying to see who would ask questions first. Because one thing I've noticed with some of the people I mentor is when we go to a lot of programs like this, nobody wants to be the first to raise their hand. But the moment somebody does, you realize that everybody else has questions. And that's something that I found is very peculiar in our part of the region. Generally, Ghanaians tend to be, a lot of people like to call us timid. We may know, we may have a question, we may have the answers, but we never feel bold enough to step out. And that's one thing I always tell my mentees, because I say, usually, sometimes all you have to do is find out one moment to stand out, and you may even have the job before even the rest are completed. You know?
That's not specific to just the youth. I mean, even in the boardroom, it's exactly the same. You know, experienced professionals, nobody wants to contribute in a meeting. You know, even sometimes when you do want to contribute, people look at you like, you know, why are you speaking? We're supposed to just be here to listen, and it's really not about that. You know, sometimes you can get somebody's attention by asking a really smart or intelligent question. So yeah, I think that's a good habit to create as early on in your career as possible.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like I said, from our first season, most of the feedback we got was, oh, let's get more interaction, we want to ask more questions, we need more time. So it's actually interesting that so far there are no questions. Unless, of course, you know everything that we've been talking about. But let me expand a little bit.
I would like to ask a question.
Yes, please. Okay.
I'd like to know, like, who is in school at the moment? Like, who's currently in university? Just maybe raise your hand. Is everybody out of uni and working? Raise your hand. I can't hear you. Okay, so you're all doing national service at the moment? Yeah.
Everyone up here?
Is anybody unemployed? Or trying to get a national service placement or internship or something?
Anybody here who needs a job?
Okay, so literally everybody's in national service.
I need a job after national service.
But you just started, right? National service, right? Okay. Okay, interesting. That's good to know.
So, since our majority of our audience here is national service, how do we maximize that experience to ensure that by the time that they come out of school, or out of, well, I consider national service schools, because this is where you actually get practical learning experience, let me put it that way. But to ensure that by the time that they're done with national service, there's a job begging for them, let me put it that way. I'm afraid to use the word begging and them competing with people, because if you can get ahead of them, there's no reason why not to. So
yeah, I think going back to what you said earlier, you know, really understanding what it is that you want to do will enable you to get out of your current work role what you need to ensure that you land the job that you want, either when you come out of national service or within the company that you're already in. I mean, how many of you are actually working for an organization that you wouldn't mind staying there, you know, on a long-term basis? You? One?
want to stay working where you are? Okay.
You want to move on to somewhere else after national service, okay? So you're just trying to get
No, you want to stay where you are. You want to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's important to know what you want to do after national service, because then you can try and target particular departments or particular people within the organization that you can tap information from and gain experience that's going to add value to your CV, depending upon what it is that you want to do afterwards. So I think it's very important that you know that now, so you can start building up that necessary experience that you're going to need to move on or to move into a department within the organization that you're currently with. And unless you know what it is that you want to do next, you really don't know the skills that you need to acquire now. So it's really good to start thinking about that as early as possible. And I think also you can learn a lot by studying people. Okay, I think the most within my first internship out of sixth form, which is like the gap between 16 and 18 when you go to university. So you're doing your A-levels. And rather than doing like a typical school thing, you see I had a bit of an issue with school. So I did like more of a placement where I can get my qualification, okay? I always wanted to be practical and be very, very hands-on. And I think I learned the most there about what to do and what not to do in a working environment. And depending upon the level that you are at, in terms of, workplace ethics and stuff like that, that's where I really learned some of the most valuable things that I've carried through with me for the rest of my career. And there's still little things that stick out in my mind now that I teach interns that I work with and, assistants that I have or whatever. I still pass on those, what I call nuggets of, gems of information that were given to me by very senior level people there. So I think you should just be like a sponge right now, just trying to absorb as much, watching what happens in meetings. If you go to a meeting and you notice that everybody has a notebook and a pen, remind yourself that, okay, every time I'm going to a meeting, even if I'm not actually physically participating, I should look professional, I should have a notebook and pen. Watch how people dress around the office, how the ladies present themselves, whether they're wearing, big earrings like this in the office or they're a little bit more demure, if they wear lots of makeup or they don't, how they, interact with each other when they're dealing with other colleagues and so forth. These are all the little things that you can start picking up when you're, an intern, because people forgive you a lot when you're an intern. When they're actually paying you a full salary, it's a different ballgame. So this is the time for you to just be like a sponge and just be soaking in, but soaking in the right things, the things that are going to help you to propel to the next level.
They call them mistakes that you can make.
Yeah.
What I'll add is, unfortunately, the National Service Program doesn't really place people in jobs based on their career interests. So it kind of just does a random placement. So even though it may not be necessarily directly tied to your career pursuits, what you can do is, like the teacher said, see it as an opportunity to gain skills, a skill building process or program. You are a sponge, just soaking up all the skills that you can possibly on the job. Look for opportunities to develop yourself. So you see, sometimes if you go into an organization that doesn't have a proper structure for national service interns, and as and when they get a job for a national service intern, they will say, okay, come and do something. You find that sometimes you are a bit more, you have a bit more time to your hands. People sometimes, even in the public sector, some interns take that as an opportunity to just do whatever they want, go out and have fun, or leave work early, or just be idle, or go online and just be Facebooking or something like that. That you should understand that all that time is time being wasted. As you are wasting that time, your colleague in another organization is using his or her time profitably. Both of you will finish national service and they will quickly get a job because they have used that time to build themselves, and then you finish with what? Facebook skills. Nobody wants that. You're not marketable, okay? So look for, even if you go into an organization that doesn't have a proper structure, you will take it upon yourself to make sure that you are getting the skills that you need. So first of all, create a plan for yourself or an objective. What do I want to get out of this role? Yes, maybe this is not my ideal career or my ideal job, but what do I want to get out of this experience? What can I learn? What kind of skills can I get and take from it? If it's possible to sit with a supervisor, sit with them and discuss this process with them. This is what I want to get. They'll also tell you this is what we're expecting of you from the job. So at least you're on the same page. And then they can also try and get you assignments that are related to the kind of goals and features that you have communicated across to them. Okay, if you're done with your duties, for instance, you don't have anything to do, go to another department, like the teacher said, find out what they do. Find out, let's say you've been put into the HR department, but that doesn't stop you from going to find out what is going on in the finance department, for instance. How do they do their process? What do they do? Put yourself out there. Let people know that you want to work. I'm available if you need me. Can I do this? Or you yourself should identify working opportunities. The company doesn't have, let's say, a certain database, for instance, and you have knowledge of it because of what you studied in school. Offer to use that, do that. I can help you to do this. Sometimes they're really reluctant because they don't know what you're capable of doing. Do it and show it to somebody. If it's good enough, they're like, oh wow, you can actually do this. Then they start increasing the kind of responsibilities they assign to you. And very soon you become somebody who's an asset to the company and they want to keep on after that. These are some of the things that you need to do to be able to develop yourself. By the time you're done, you realize I have gained these number of skills. Another thing you need to also do is, as you're going along, create a portfolio for yourself, okay? So you want to finish national service and be able to tell an employer that these and these, this and this and this is what I was able to achieve on the job. So as you're going along, have a portfolio. If you design some document of the company that they are using, photocopy it. Obviously, you ask permission of the company before you do that. Photocopy it, put one on file, document it, so you can show to an employer after that, look, I did this and this is evidence of it. I did this, I was able to do it. So these are some of the things you should be paying attention to: developing your skills, developing yourself, making sure that you leave the national service or whatever working opportunities that you're currently in with tangible skills that you can use to make yourself more marketable to an employer.
So let's expand a little bit on what next. But before we do that, I think we have a question from Hero Moston.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I have a couple of questions. With regards to creating portfolio, I just want your opinion on the issue of young people engaging volunteerism as a way of, gaining some experience. Two things. I've realized over the years that even the concept of volunteerism is not much inculcated in our organizational patterns. I mean, I don't know how having an organization can create a platform where young people can volunteer freely. That's one side. And on the flip side, young people themselves decided to volunteer was their own to build that portfolio. How do you encourage that? And that's one side. That's the first question. The second question has to do with there are a lot of young people who have great talent, who have concepts that are so great, in my opinion, but they have a challenge of starting those concepts in terms of starting their own organization. They find themselves working in places where they don't like. I'm one of the people. I'm working in a place where really that's not what I want to do, but I need to put on the table, so I'm just keeping that for a while. And my desire to start something on my own. How do you advise such young people to, implement their dreams that they want to do?
So I'll take the motivation first. I think it's very, very key as a young professional, if you can, to get engaged in volunteer work. Okay, it speaks a lot about the kind of person that you want to be a CEO one day. You have to understand what it means to be on the ground, what the low-level employees or middle level and high, what all of them are going through, what they're doing, so that you can also add your voice to whatever it is. But if you don't understand what they're doing, you can't add to that. So it's good when you're starting. You start by working for somebody. You understand some of these processes. Even let's say photocopying, printing, those kind of things I would take for granted. Okay, if you're working with a boss who can give his or her opinion to every part of the company's processes, you feel like, oh wow, this person is very knowledgeable. You respect the person more because the person knows what he or she is talking about. But if you're a CEO, and I'm talking about something that let's say an entry-level person, I'm talking about a certain part of the process and you are totally blank and don't have an idea, you are kind of trying to understand what's in the business. It's not a totally bad thing. You get experience, you work for somebody, then at a certain stage, so as you're working for somebody, even if sometimes we end up in jobs where you don't find very too much fulfillment in. But let's look at the positive side. Are you gaining skills in that job? What are some of the positive things you can take from that job onto your next move, onto your next career move, okay? And be noting that down. Like I'm saying, once again, build a portfolio as you're going on. And also, don't neglect, the company you want to start. So you want to start, you don't just get up and start a company. There's so many things that go into it. You need to plan. You need to...
And I'll just add that for you to understand how an organization should be run, I think you need to have experience of working in an organization. I think that we hear lots of stories about guys that drop out of school and start these companies that get sold for millions and millions of dollars and so forth. But these people have a lot of resources behind them, supporting them, guiding them, a lot of advisors. Usually they're people that go to great top Ivy League schools that have professors and business coaches and everything at their disposal. It's really not that easy to just jump out of school and jump into building a company when you have no idea as to how a company is structured, protocols, bureaucracy, all of the different things that go into running an organization. And taking an organization from being very small to growing it into a large organization that actually hires other employees, and you as a CEO has responsibility of employing, X amount of number of people. So I think that work experience is quite critical. Work experience within somebody else's company. I think you want to know how an organization is run, and I think you should work for an organization to have a true understanding of that.
Letitia, in our interview of the ministries, you did. Okay.
We talked about volunteering, and that word tickled me a lot. I realized that with volunteering, some people have it naturally. Others have to learn. So if you're going into the world of work, volunteering is very important to have that experience. And the best time to gain that experience is through school. And maybe you didn't have the opportunity to do it. So at any point in time, you can go back and pick it up. And what I can say is, if you want to have that on your CV, where you are now, national service, one thing, you should be bold. I had the opportunity to do volunteer work through school. It didn't come on a silver platter like Ashesi gives the students. I was doing it on my own, right? I joined groups that do volunteer work because I loved doing it. I didn't know I was really going to pay off someday. So, but after university, when I was finishing off my master's, I just went to University of Ghana. I'm sharing an experience with you. I went to University of Ghana, walked to the Counseling and Placement Center, looked for the director, asked of the name. So I got there, and then I was waiting for him. He got in. I went inside. They said, "I'm here to work with you." He was like, "Have you been posted to me?" I said, "No, I haven't, but I just thought I should come because I want to work with you." He was so taken aback. So I had the opportunity. Anytime he's going for trainings, he will call me. I have a schedule here, and I wasn't being paid for it. I just wanted to do it, and it's something that added to my CV. Just be bold. You can enter any place you want to go. If you go and you're rejected, it could either be a yes or a no. If it's a no, it's just like you didn't go at all. You take it like that. If it's a yes, it's a plus. So be bold, and then that will help you to get some, unpaid experience and add to your CV. And also talking about getting experience before starting a company. I finished school, I registered 2 companies about 5-6 years ago, but I realized you can't just run off by starting a company. You need more than that. So I started getting some experience here and there. So I've worked with so many companies, but for very short periods of time, not all are paid. So you can't just run off. You need certain things. And even working for other people in their organization, one vital thing you learn is how to live with people in the same place and work with them. Because you're all coming from different places. You might come in with your style. Some other person may not be really happy about your style and may not like you. But you have to get the work done, you have to get along. So these are some of the things you can pick in other companies to help you when you start off, and then you can run with it. Thank you.
There's another question here.
Hello, my name is Yabwa. I have a simple question, like 2 in 1. What's your confidence in the training system, or let me say educational system in Ghana, that's its ability to produce fine graduates who can fit into jobs? I've had the opportunity to train tertiary with the Ghanaian school. I've had the opportunity to train with an English school, and there's a lot of difference in how they train. It's a little practical on their side, and I don't know. The other point is, I don't know whether companies are really interested in spending, or let's say, investing in their new intakes, because when you come in, it's like they're looking for already made people, and if you don't have certain skills, it's like you don't fit in. I don't know whether I'm making sense to you. So one, how able is our system to bring out the right people? Because I'm told about Germany that it's not really about, I have a BSc in engineering. If you have it, they bring you with the one who finished, I don't know how they call it, like SS. And if he has a better knowledge, that person has the upper hand. But here, when you look in the graphic and you see the application, it's like you must have a first degree. And you go to British, I visited British High Commission, their websites, like the degree issue, it comes like almost the fourth, like it's an advantage for you. So please, you as HR, I don't know your view on that.
I think there's a reason for that, and I think that at first I didn't understand it, and I think I was quite ignorant towards it, and I was like, what's all of this? Oh, you know, managers here have to have masters and whatever else. I didn't really get it. But I think it's based upon the environment in which we are living in, okay? Generally, if you have finished SS here, the level of education that you would have received is so basic that it's not enough, in my opinion, for you to be able to fit into maybe an entry-level role within certain companies, within certain divisions. Okay, so I think that kind of like necessity that, okay, at least if you've been through the educational system, and I don't think it's good enough, I don't think it's strong enough, I don't think they're really trying to, not all schools, I think HSC is one school that and I'm sorry to anybody else that's gone to any other school here, in my experience, and I probably already had experience of working with graduates from about 5 schools in Ghana, but HSC is the only one where I literally picked the guy out of the school, placed him in my office, and we just started working. You know, everything else is a long, slow process of trying to get them to understand what's required within an office environment and how to apply the skills that they have learned. So I think that's the reason why, because by the time you finish secondary school in the UK, you are ready to go into an office environment. The skills that you would have been taught, I mean, we go through a whole process of how you need to become IT literate, you know, ICT, etc., etc. You have basic office skills that you're able to apply in the workplace. By the time I was 15, I learned how to write a CV and start applying for jobs because I had to go for work experience as part of my final year of secondary school. And you have to secure that job yourself. So you develop a CV, a cover letter, and everything else. So I was ready by the time I finished secondary school to make a decision as to whether I wanted to go into higher education or whether I want to get an entry-level job. That's not the case here with our educational system. So therefore, that extra level of having a degree is some level of reassurance for the employers, I feel. And I don't know if you agree, but okay, at least they've gone through X, Y, and Z. So I don't think it's the best. I think that we need to work on incorporating personal development and professional development into our educational system. Communication skills, presentation skills. I worked with a graduate recently who studied marketing and communications, and I asked them to develop a marketing concept, and they didn't know how to put together a marketing plan. They have never actually, throughout the whole 4 years of university, had to develop a marketing plan. But now you're a qualified marketing professional. Not chartered, but you're qualified. I don't understand how that can happen. I don't think it's acceptable. I think it's that our government has to take a responsibility for ensuring that all of the private and public universities deliver a certain standard of education, because that's the only thing that's going to be able to fill this gap between graduates and what employers are looking for. I'm ranting a little bit because I feel quite strongly about this, okay? But then on another level, employers too, I mean, some of them just don't have the capacity to train you. They don't know what they're supposed to be teaching you. I mean, we've just taken in about 8 national service personnel within my organization, and every single one that we interviewed, we realized wasn't actually a fit for what we needed. But then what do we have to do? We have to put together a program that's going to be able to get them up to speed as quickly as possible. So I actually, went ahead to say that if we're going to hire these people, if we're going to take them within our organization, then we have to actually take responsibility for helping them to be able to mold into what we expect of them. We can't just take them on and then say, oh, she doesn't know how to do this, she doesn't know how to do that. So how can we help them? And we actually designed a program. We had economics students that have never used Excel. How? I just don't get it,
I know an information studies student that does not know how to use Excel.
Yeah.
And piss a whole email section into a subject area. Yeah, I'm shocked, but it's real.
It's crazy. So therefore, we have to, as employers, as line managers, we also have to learn how to teach and how to help these unskilled graduates that are coming into our organizations be able to give us what we need from them. So
Very important.
yeah, it's a level of responsibility that we have to take, and we've just taken that step within my organization. And you know, little by little, we're seeing the results, and we're seeing that it's also giving the national service personnel the confidence to be able to ask for more information. And then you're able to see who's really participating, you know, who's here and actively engaged and who's not, because we're putting it on a platter for you to take it. If you're not taking it, then it becomes evident as to who's really who wants to progress and who doesn't.
Letitia, let me quickly add a little bit to this point, because I'm sure I feel as strongly and as passionate about this topic as you do. Now, I had an interesting discussion with one of the national service personnel in my office yesterday, and we were talking about, short and tall, I told her, you know what, you need new friends. That's the way I put it. Because she was explaining to me all the reasons why some of her friends who wanted to be at this program couldn't make it. From my boyfriend is sick, to I have to go to a funeral, to I have to go to a wedding, you know the drill. Now, it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, government needs to put these structures in place and this and that. And in a perfect world, that would be okay. But I think the onus is on that person themselves. Now, if you have a platform like this where you can get access to resources that can tell you how to improve yourself, and you think that going to the saloon or going to take care of your boyfriend who has parents or going to a wedding or a funeral is more important than that, then please don't blame the government or the system that you can't get a job. If you think that, and that ties into another thing that you said when we interviewed Letitia about a purpose. How many of you know what your purpose in life is, or how many of you have actually thought about what your purpose is? Because that purpose sometimes determines what passion you have and how passionate you are about what it is that you want to do. Now, if you don't have the passion and you don't have that purpose, then it comes down to raw skill, which most of the time is not enough. But employers are left with relying on that skill on the CV because they don't have it. Now put yourself in a business owner's shoes. You want to hire somebody who has no value on paper, who you don't even know if it's trainable or not. You want to spend 6 months to a year to figure out that this person is not a fit, pay them a regular salary every month, and then get them out. It doesn't make business sense. So no employer would want to take that chance. How do you make that employer feel that way about you? That's the onus on you. That's why you go back and say, hey, give me a chance, I will work for free. Now after 6 months, if he doesn't see your value, then either you don't have the skill, you need to go somewhere and build it, or if he's not realizing it and you realize that there's value, what you do, find somebody else. But the point is, at that moment, he's had a taste of you for free. So if he really values you, he'll be willing to pay for it. But if you're asking the employers to take the gamble when they're in a business to make profit, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Now, you can talk all you can about the educational system and this and that. My parents could talk about that because they didn't have access to what? To Google and the internet. You do now. So if I ask you to go do a marketing concept like you said, just tell the person to give you a few minutes.
But Papa, this is the issue, okay? You see, I always try to put myself in the shoes of somebody that has been through the educational system here and only through the educational system here. Because I think the minute that you step outside, and like you said, when you're in the UK, you saw that things are completely different. So it exposes your mind to certain things. The two people that I was referring to when I spoke about the marketing plan didn't take that step to go to Google and find out what components go into a marketing plan. So then you have to ask yourself why. Because they're not encouraged to think in that way. And that's why I say that the government has a responsibility as we are going through primary school, secondary school, to ensure that we are grooming people that are actually, programmed to think in that way.
Which is absolutely true.
So I get what you're saying, but I think that little nudge from an employer or a mentor, whatever is required to get people to start thinking
and it totally
that
makes
way.
sense. But you know what? And for a long time it's been a debate. Those who've been exposed, those who stayed there their whole life. And this is a homework for everybody, including us. when you go back to some of our African proverbs, when you go back to go talk to your grandmothers who've been around a long time ago, when you go back to some of our Ghanaian proverbs and talk to some of the people who are today 80, 90, some of these things are not new. It's what we call Ifianyansa. Some of these things are really common sense. I don't know. Therefore, let me find somebody who knows that can teach me so I know. I mean, if you look at some of these things, they are so basic in our culture. So you ask yourself, where did we miss our way? Because I know people who did not go to school, and some of the business acumen that they show did not come from nowhere outside.
But that's the only thing that they acquire that business acumen through other means.
The point is
for
they
example,
need to search, they need to engage.
yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying? We rely on systems to fix what is really innately supposed to be ours. And here's another thing which I wanted to quickly add before. Our systems are set up to take the cream. So, I mean, no offense to Ashese. Ashese will keep bringing out really good students. But the point is, Ashese's formula for even picking the students in the first place takes the cream. What we need to figure out is how do you get that person who does not have the simple Ifianyansa to start thinking that if I want to be in Ashese, how do I prepare myself? How did one of the people I interviewed, Auntie Muni, how did Auntie Muni come from Tamale to Accra, set up a watcher business by the roadside, and manage to get her kids to go to Ashese with no exposure outside? You see what I'm saying? Where do these people come from? They come from the same Ghana. So where is the disconnect?
Within every community, okay, you're always going to have different layers in terms of different people with different layers of ambition, people with different layers of exposure, people with different levels of, success at the end of the day. Unfortunately here, because our education system has so many flaws, there are more people that are falling into that category of, average. Do you know what I mean? I think if you're in even if you look at the UK, for example, or even let's say the US, okay, you have extremely successful people in the US. Self-made millionaires and billionaires that didn't even go to, university. Why? It's something that's innate within them. You can't take away from that. And Timoni is something that has that drive within her that she wanted to succeed. Not everybody's supposed to be like that. We are always going to have people that are supposed to be kind of like just doing the 9-to-5 general type of roles. They build a career and they're quite content with having that basic kind of like level of income coming in until they retire at the age of 60. Every society has different layers. But when you have an educational system that's failing us, unfortunately, it stops propelling people to want to move into, or even thinking that they can move into that next layer.
So, what I would say is, because the educational system is failing us here, I would say the onus lies on you, the individual. That's what I'll say, okay? Yes, we can try and pursue the government to fix education. We all know how long the government takes to respond to anything, especially something as major as education, okay? What can you do as an individual to make sure that you come out a star? It doesn't matter whether you're a very different person or not. Go out there. I would say go out there and look for the opportunities to grow yourself. We can say we're relying on the government, it's not going to come now. But look for other opportunities that can help you to get to that place you want to be. Go, like you say, Google is there. There's so many things you can get on Google these days. Search for something. If there's something you've been asked by a company to design a marketing strategy, go online, find out what is it about. Ask somebody. Look for a mentor. So if you're in a certain career and you need more information about the career or what you do, find a mentor in that field, somebody who can advise and speak to you about what you need to be paying attention to, how you can develop yourself in this kind of career, this kind of industry. Look, at the end of the day, the choices that you make will make or break you, okay? When you are successful, you're making money, it is you. So if you decide that you will sit down and say, oh, I'm going to take care of my boyfriend, so I'm not going to come to a career development session, And you should understand that you will deal with the consequences of that decision. Make sure that you are making the right kind of choice, the right kind of decisions to help you to get from where you are to where you want to go to. You can't depend on anybody for that. Look for the kind of resources that are out there. People, who can serve as your mentors. Look for information online. Look everywhere for information on how to build yourself from where you are to where you want to be. And that is the only way you're going to make it, especially in a system like this.
I agree. I do agree with you, okay, but no one's saying we should rely on the government to fix the problems that we are facing as individuals today. But I think that the government has a responsibility to, especially to stop allowing these private universities to set up and just take money from parents and churning out students that do not even have very basic skills to enter into the workplace. There has to be a change. We're not saying that the government is responsible for where you are right now. I mean, I come from a very, very small town in Lincolnshire. It may be in the UK, but it's, let's say, like you're living in Tamale, for example. There's very limited opportunities. The majority of people that live there are working class. Okay, you either go and work as a factory, as a young woman in a factory that maybe packs for large supermarkets or whatever, or you can go and get a job in a mechanic. Very, very kind of like hands-on working class environment. And I made a decision at a very young age that I didn't want to do anything like that. I wanted to move out of Lincolnshire. I didn't want to be part of that. I didn't want to keep, developing within that community. I wanted to be in London. And it was spurred on by my regular visits that I went to London with to visit my parents during the summer breaks or whatever. You see all of these glamorous women walking around in suits and, carrying briefcases and stuff, and that spurred something within me. And at the age of 14, I moved out of that village in Lincolnshire, and I went to London to pursue what I thought was going to be my dream career. At that time, I thought I wanted to be a legal secretary, because it seemed so exciting to me. You sit there, you're typing, you wear like really hot lipstick, and that's all I could focus on. And what was talking about purpose? That was my purpose. I wanted to get to London, ride the tube to work, wear lipstick and high heels, and go to work. And that's what I was thinking when I was like, but I was 13, so at that time, that was my ambition. Obviously, things have developed and things have changed as you mature or whatever. But I found that purpose within me, and that's what really spurred me on and drove me to achieve what I have managed to do today. So I hear what you're saying about taking responsibility, but then I had the basics in terms of my education that allowed me to think in that way. I had opportunities within school to see that, okay, if I did X, Y, and Z course, I could achieve this. I had access to information. I had so many opportunities that were just at my fingertips. And when you don't have that, I can understand why you just can be so bogged down that you accept the norm. You think that, okay, well, I'm one of 20,000 graduates that are not working, so it's beyond me. I can understand that feeling of despair.
You can relate, but it's still no excuse. But and no, by the way, since we're empowering and teaching what some people have not learned in 4 years, I think the BWP series school is about to start, and we're taking applications. Now, real quick before we continue, I'd like to acknowledge some of our partners and sponsors. We have the Kahaya Car Spa, which have been given complimentary washes. If you drove in here and you don't have your car washed, you better go out there and drive down so we can wash your car for you, make it look spick and span. We have the Great Cafe. They give you the delicious breakfast that you're enjoying. The Kahaya Car Spa also rents and sells cars, so those of you who want to buy cars or sell rent cars. And then one of our partners who've been really good to us, you see the water around the lockup. The lockup makes sure that your thirst is quenched at every program, BWP program, so kudos to them. We have the other Tisha Brown and Amigo Latte. Now we'll continue with the questions, but help me out here. I don't know what my purpose in life is. I don't know what type of job I want to do. I know I want to do something with my life, but I just haven't figured out what it is. How do I go through the process of finding myself, figuring out what will work for me?
Okay, I think it has to start with really taking some time out to understand yourself. And I think a lot of people don't really see the importance of that. And when I say understand yourself, I mean on so many different levels. You know, there's also different questions that you can ask yourself, and I think that's some of the processes that I take you through with the Spark program. But really starting to understand yourself. What excites you? What drives you? What are you capable of doing? What comes to you very easily? What do you find challenging? What type of environments really bring out the best in you? And what type of environments do you not necessarily like? For example, okay, I've worked at some very large multinational organizations, and I've also worked with some very small companies. I'm a small company kind of girl. I like to be able to pretty much dictate my day, what I do, what I get involved in, what kind of level of input I can have. When you work for multinationals, it's a little bit more difficult to do that because there's so many different points as to where you have to get sign-off and agreement and departmental, you know, structures and whatever else. That doesn't work for me because I'm too innovative. I have different ideas all day long and I want to be able to try those ideas out and implement different things. So these are the types of things that I'm talking about when you say that you need to take some time out to get to know yourself and start discovering what type of environment you thrive in, what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy, and just start writing them down. It's the easiest way to start making sense of it all. You know, okay, so when I'm within this organization, I really enjoyed this, or this internship within this company made me realize that I'm really, really good at this. Or, you know, I'm so organized. My room is always organized. You know, my mom is always complaining that I'm always packing her things away and she can't find anything. Organization is my skill set. So what does that mean? How can I apply that to the world of work? Do I enjoy to do that as a job? Does it mean that I can maybe be a very high-level PA for an extremely, you know, busy executive? Or maybe I could actually start up a business, you know, organizing people's lives for them for free. Maybe I could be a virtual PA or, you know, whatever the case may be. But I think that once you start identifying what your natural talents and abilities are, your purpose starts to come to you. And I think that we're all on that journey throughout life anyway. I can't say that I know my purpose inside and out. I know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I feel an immense amount of pleasure from my day job, and I feel so fortunate to be able to say that because a lot of people don't. I'd say probably 95% of people actually just go to work and not enjoy what they do. I rush to get to work in the morning because I love every single minute of the day when I'm in the office and I'm trying to help people start up their businesses and stuff. That really excites me. But it doesn't mean that this is like my purpose, as in like that's it. I'm just supposed to be, you know, matching investors to entrepreneurs. There's a bigger purpose for my life, I believe. But I think that what I'm doing now is guiding me there. And I know that because I feel a sense of peace and a sense of happiness in what I'm doing. But unless you take the time to actually listen to yourself and to actually soak in what's happening around you and be present and pay attention to all of the things that I said, you're not going to be one step closer to discovering your purpose. Praying is important, but, okay, it's not just by getting on your knees and praying to God, oh God, you know, help me discover my purpose in life. What is it you want me to do? I give my life to you, and then you just lie down on your bed and wait for the job to come knocking at your door. No. Prayer with action, okay? So it's really about you taking the steps to discover your purpose for yourself.
I probably will mention the same thing you just mentioned, but I want to summarize this in 3 steps, okay? So to be able to find out what you're passionate in and what you like, what you don't like, and all of that, which is, like she's saying, that's the first step. The first step towards finding out what kind of career you want to get into or what you want to do with yourself is be able to find out these things. What do I like, what don't I like, what fire do I have, what, you know, all those things. But you have to, put yourself out there. And she just mentioned that. You can't expect to find these things when you're sitting at home and doing what sometimes we call Adidas, sleeping and eating. Okay? You're just there and
It's like
cheating. You know, you're sleeping, you're eating, hanging out with friends, chatting, that kind of thing. You need to put yourself out there and get involved, get engaged. Outside, I know what some people do is they take gap year. So they go out and travel somewhere, explore. You need to explore because that's the only way you find out, oh wow, I like to do this now. I'm interested in this now. I don't like this. If you are sitting on you're sitting down and you're not doing anything, it is difficult for you to come to that realization. However, it doesn't matter how many prayers you pray in a day. Okay, you need to put yourself out there. Get involved in as many things as you can get involved with. Okay, it doesn't have to be something that you are naturally inclined to do. Okay, because sometimes that means that you are just staying in your comfort zone. Move out of your comfort zone. Challenge yourself to do things. Sometimes introverts are really afraid to move out and do things that put them out there. But challenge yourself to do that. That's the only way you go and learn more about yourself and what you like and what you don't like. And then B is be intentional about that process. And the teacher said that as well. So as you're going along, you are noting down the things you are finding out about yourself. You're not just keeping in your head, oh, okay, I like this, fine, that's great. But note it down so that as you're going on, you're building your profile of the thought. These are my strengths and my weaknesses and things I'm good at and all of that. Okay, and then C, and before I go to C, another way you can find more about yourself is personality assessments. And you can get some of these online. Some are like the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs and all of that. What they do is, yes, they ask you a couple of questions about you and what you do and how you do what you do. You just be open-minded and feel those things. You can go online, some of these tests are free online, okay? And you'll come up with a personality profile at the end of the day that this is the kind of person you are, these are your weaknesses, your strengths, the kind of jobs you probably thrive in. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's putting you in a box. It's just giving you an idea, it's a guideline. You can think along those lines as a starting step to something else. And then C is, now you found out all these things about you. How do you tie that into a career or a job or anything like that? So look, the third is research. You need to go out and research. Sometimes we make our career choices based on what we know. So I grew up in a family that then I want to be a doctor. Or I like the way lawyers dress. Or it's cool. I like the way, But we are limiting our choices to the careers that are immediately around us. But there's so much more out there. So the fact that you realize how good at organizational skills doesn't mean you necessarily have to be, I don't know, what kind of career is that? A PA, Maybe there's another great occupation that you can get involved in that also requires you to have good organizational skills. So go out there, find out what jobs are there, find out what kind of careers are existing out there, what it's about, what kind of competencies you need to be able to do that job. Then you are narrowing down your search, and then from there you can now start doing a more targeted approach or search into where you want to go. So that's the process I'll say go through to be able to discover yourself and how you can create a career eventually.
And with regards to the personality test, you have to be honest. Okay, they're structured in a way to catch you out anyway if you're trying to present the best side of yourself. And I think that's naturally what we tend to do when we're faced with certain questions. And sometimes they'll ask you questions like, okay, so if your boss is out of the office, what are you naturally inclined to do? Browse on Facebook, ensure that you get that task done before he gets back or whatever. And then you would naturally try and make the answer in a way to say, oh, I'm going to ensure that my boss's task is done before he comes back. And then the question will come back again in a different way to try and catch up. So just be honest, because the information is for you. The information is for you to identify your strengths, but also your weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses. We all need to understand what our weaknesses are so that we can build upon them, so we can develop skills that counteract those weaknesses. None of us are perfect. Okay, so I'll just say, if you're doing personality testing, don't try and lie. It's not going to benefit you or anybody else, really. So just try and be honest.
Beautiful. We're going to start wrapping up. We'll take just a few more questions. But you have some feedback forms. We believe in feedback, so please fill them. Make sure that we understand what your concerns are, if you have any issues, or make sure you register so we can keep engaging with you. I'd quickly like to talk about some resources you may want to explore. For those of you who want to build on your leadership and public speaking or communication skills, there's an organization called Toastmasters. You may want to check it out. It's a very good organization to get plugged into. It helps you build your network, it helps you build your leadership skills, and it helps you build your communication skills. We also started an organization called Pitch. For For those of you who want to learn to build on your persuasion skills, in case you're going to meet an investor and you want to be able to persuade them or get them to buy into your idea, or even if you're looking for a co-founder or looking for people to join your organization, how to learn the necessary skills to persuade them and how to walk into any door or engage with any person. Very, very, very important. And so for those of you who are trying to figure out how I get half the resources I get to be on the program, Pitch will teach you that, okay? There's also an organization we started called Accept, which focuses on letting you understand that it's important to build, when you're trying to start up businesses, think about the social impact. Don't just think about the money. Think about the social impact. And in thinking about the social impact, you build a business that is not only creative, but also is more fulfilling. So Accept plugs into that. If you're interested, you can look out for Accept, you can Google, there's a Facebook page, you can connect to it. So these are some of the organizations that you can look at. She talked about tests. When you get a chance, take the Enneagram test. It helps you define your personality or find out what your personality is. When you find out what your personality is, as a leader, you understand how to move towards the healthy side. Because an unhealthy balance of your personality can be bad. So for example, for my personality type, which is type A, which I share with people like Martin Luther King and so forth, the healthy side, well, that's what you see now. But the unhealthy side, we can be dictators, we can be vindictive, we can be harsh. So, it's important that we always stay on the healthy side. It's important that you understand these personalities, otherwise you may see sides of you that are not good. There's a type 2, there's a type 1, there's a type 3, so try and investigate and find out who you are, find out what your purpose is, and start building towards it.